very much for that warm welcome. Now I guess I'm going to have to give a speech. I came today to give you a status report on what's going on and to try to fill you in on some of the steps we're taking to get Apple healthy again. As you know, I'm the chairman and CEO of a company called Pixar, and thank you. And I, like a lot of other people, are pulling together to help Apple get healthy again, and I am extraordinarily confident that that is going to happen. Now, when I started to get involved, a lot of people gave me advice. And some of the advice that was the most popular was Apple has become irrelevant. There was a great one that was Apple can't execute anything. And another one was the Apple culture is anarchy. You can't, no one could manage it. You've read all these things in the press. And after 4 weeks, here's what I found. Quite the opposite of these things, actually. Apple's not as relevant as it used to be everywhere, but in some incredibly important market segments, it's extraordinarily relevant. And I want to share some of that with you today. Apple is executing wonderfully on many of the wrong things. The ability of the organization to execute is really high, though. I mean, I've met some extraordinary people at Apple. There's a lot of great people at Apple. They're doing some of the wrong things because the plan has been wrong. And lastly, what I found is rather than anarchy, I found people that can't wait to fall into line behind a good strategy. There just hasn't been one. So what are some beginning steps that we're going to take? One of the first ones has to be to start at the top. Apple's done a lot of change at the bottom, and I think this change needs to start at the top with the board of directors. Focus on relevance. Apple needs to find where it is still incredibly relevant and focus on those areas. It needs to figure out what its core assets are and invest more in them. Apple has neglected its core assets for a while. It has to forge some meaningful partnerships, not just partnerships and press releases. And it needs to define some new product paradigms. And we've got some great ideas. I'm not going to be talking about products today, though. I just want to let you know that we have some wonderful ideas that you'll be hearing about between now and the end of the year. Now, I put together a little video. If you'd like, I'll show it to you. That just we asked the board members a few questions, and you can just maybe get a little familiar with them. Would you like to see it? Let's go ahead and roll that.
You know, the old board has been associated with the past, and the past has been failure. The new board brings hope.
The new group of people on the Apple board are all computer insiders. We've all been in the computer industry.
Everyone knows that the computer industry changes at the speed of light. Now we have people who clearly can help us articulate and understand where the niches are, where Apple can compete and successfully win.
So a lot of times we try to focus on ourselves, re-engineer ourselves internally, and we forgot sometimes who pays the bills. It's the customer out there pays the bills.
You know, one of the things that bothered me years ago was when they raised prices. I thought that was it made me think that Apple didn't understand the outside world.
I think Apple needs to worry less about competing with Microsoft and worry more about doing things that are different. That's back to innovation. It's back to creativity. It's back to vision.
No one's really going to believe Apple can be successful until we get the revenues and the costs back in line, and that means we got to start growing the revenues again.
Companies have to look at everything they're doing and determine, you know, what are core competencies, what are the core parts of the business.
In a sense, Apple is trying to do too many different things. We need to focus on a handful of things and do them really, really well. You know, Apple's the only lifestyle brand in the computer industry. It's the only company that people feel passionate about. You know, my company, Oracle, it's a huge company. IBM's a huge company. Microsoft's a huge company. But no one has incredible emotions associated with our companies. Only Apple is really a lifestyle brand.
And companies can spend billions of dollars to build a brand.
I don't think we've been doing a good enough job taking care of you. Have you called I've called the support lines myself. I've gotten very acquainted with the hold signal. And so I think we're going to see some changes there soon. And I apologize for anything in the past. But what I want to do right now is get a little more analytical. And I want to say, sort of from a more analytical standpoint, what are Apple's core assets? And there's two of them that I've been able to uncover. The first one is the brand itself, and the second is the Mac OS. Now the brand, if you asked, what are the 5 greatest brands in the world? If you went out and you asked professionals this question, I think Nike would be on everybody's list, Coca-Cola would be on everybody's list, Disney would be on everybody's list, and Apple would be on everybody's list. We have one of the world's greatest brands, and we haven't paid much attention to it in the last several years, and I think you're going to see that start to change. And now I want to focus on the Mac OS. The Mac OS is an incredibly core asset to Apple, and we've been walking all over it. Most people think that we're about to abandon the Mac OS. Most people think that, Macintosh OS 8, which we just released, was codenamed Tempo, as you know, right? So we just released Tempo. Most people think our next release next year, which is codenamed Allegro, will come out, but then our next release will be Requiem. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The Mac OS is still the best thing in the world. It is still the best thing in the world. There are over 20 million active users. The number's a little closer to 25 million. There are thousands of developers, and there's $1.5 billion software industry built around this thing. This is one of the core assets of the company. And we are going to invest a lot more in it because we think it is an incredible asset and it has yet to really be fully exploited. Apple is about the Mac OS. We're going to be doing other things because we're creative people. But at the core, Apple is about the Mac OS. And all of the fears that I've heard of people that we're abandoning it are absolutely not true.
that I've done in my career has been the work that I've done with Steve on the Macintosh. Whether it's the first introduction or doing products like Mac Excel, these have been major milestones. And it's very exciting to renew our commitment to the Macintosh. We have over 8 million customers using Microsoft software on the Macintosh. We make it very easy for people to use Macintosh to take their documents and work with all kinds of machines. We're very excited about the new release we're building. This is called Mac Office 98. We do expect to get it out by the end of this year. And we've got some real exciting features. It's a product that's going to require no setup. It's going to be an easy transition from people in the past. And I think it's going to really set a new benchmark for doing a good job with performance and exploiting unique Mac features. In many ways, it's more advanced than what we've done on the Windows platform. We're also excited about Internet Explorer. And we've got a very dedicated team that's down in California that works on that product. And the code is really specially developed for the Macintosh. It's not just a port of what we've done in the Windows environment. And so we're pleased to be supporting Apple. We think Apple makes a huge contribution to the computer industry. We think it's going to be a lot of fun helping out, and we look forward to the feedback from all of you as we move forward doing more Macintosh software. Thanks.
Bill. You know, where we are right now is we're shepherding some of the greatest assets in the computer industry. And if we want to move forward and see Apple healthy and prospering again, we have to let go of a few things here. We have to let go of this notion that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose. Okay? We have to embrace a notion that for Apple to win, Apple has to do a really good job. And if others are going to help us, that's great. Because we need all the help we can get. And if we screw up and we don't do a good job, it's not somebody else's fault. It's our fault. So I think that's a very important perspective. I think if we want Microsoft Office on the Mac, we better treat the company that puts it out with a little bit of gratitude. We'd like their software. So the era of setting this up as a competition between Apple and Microsoft is over as far as I'm concerned. This is about getting Apple healthy, and this is about Apple being able to make incredibly great contributions to the industry to get healthy and prosper again. Lastly, I want to just talk a little about Apple and the brand and what it means, I think, to a lot of us. You know, I think you always had to be a little different to buy an Apple computer. When we shipped the Apple II, you had to think different about computers. I mean, computers were these things you saw in movies. They occupied giant rooms. They weren't these things you had on your desktop. You had to think differently because there wasn't any software at the beginning. You had to think differently when a first computer arrived at a school where there had never been one before, and it was an Apple II. I think you had to think really differently when you bought a Mac. It was a totally different computer, worked in a totally different way, used a totally different part of your brain, and it opened up a computer world for a lot of people who thought differently. You were buying a computer with an installed base of 1. You had to think differently to do that. And I think you still have to think differently to buy an Apple computer. And I think the people that do buy them do think differently, and they are the creative spirits in this world. They are the people that are not just out to get a job done, they're out to change the world. And they're out to change the world using whatever great tools they can get. And we make tools for those kinds of people. So hopefully, what you've seen here today are some beginning steps that give you some confidence that we too are going to think differently and serve the people that have been buying our products since the beginning. Because a lot of times people think they're crazy, but in that craziness we see genius, and those are the people we're making tools for. Thank you very much.